Hello and welcome everybody to the Dougie Critchley football YouTube channel. Actually can't believe I've said those words. This has only been in planning for about a month, but here we are grabbing the bull by the horns. I will explain further about my plans for the channel at the end of the video, so stick around for that. But you're here for the football, I'm here for the football, so let's get into today's video where I'll be picking out the perfect signings for every major European club, starting with Bayern Munich. Obviously the big news in Bavaria right now is that Jamal Musiala has broken the lower part of his leg, he's broken his ankle too, and he's going to be out for 4 to 5 months. Having seen that collision with Gianluigi Donnarumma, I actually thought it was going to be longer, but still massive absentee. He probably wasn't at his absolute best last season compared to the year before. It was really the Michael Olise show for Bayern Munich, but it's still a massive absentee that they do need to replace, especially given the fact that they didn't manage to sign Florian Wirtz. Now, a club I think they should look to target is Aston Villa. Now, The Athletic reported earlier this summer that they posted pre-tax losses of over £200 million. Now, Ollie Watkins feels like the player that everyone talks about in terms of leaving, same with Emi Martinez too. But given the fact that John Duran left in January, I don't think they'll be willing to let Ollie Watkins go this summer, short of a monster offer. So I think Bayern Munich should make an approach for, drumroll please, Morgan Rogers. Now for me, I think it was abundantly clear last season that Morgan Rogers is a Champions League level player. He got 4 goals and 2 assists in that competition. He also got 18 league goals and assists in the Premier League. That's as many as Bruno Fernandes. It's as many as Benjamin Šeško, who's been linked with a move from RB Leipzig all summer long, and there is so much quality to Morgan Rogers' game. Last season, he completed 66 dribbles in the Premier League. That's only 6 fewer than Michael Olise, and he's a tough tackling, hard-working midfielder too. I think he's one of the best transition players in the world. Last year, if you look at his tackle success rate, it was 50%, which for a player in his position is very solid. That was the same as Aurelien Tchouameni at Real Madrid. And I imagine in the wide open spaces of the Bundesliga with a much more transitional game, even more so than in the Premier League, I think he would absolutely thrive. Would Villa be willing to let him go? Probably not. Could they potentially tempt them with a 70, 80 million pound offer given their financial situation? Maybe. I think it's worth a shot. Now, I will come back to the other major clubs in Germany in due course, but let's head over to Spain now because I want to talk about Barcelona. Now, they have primarily been linked in the last few days with Luis Diaz of Liverpool or Marcus Rashford of Man United, and I don't think they should go for either of these deals. Firstly, for Luis Diaz, due to the obvious circumstances around what happened to Diogo Jota and the fact that Darwin Núñez looks likely to leave too, I do not think Liverpool will sell Luis Diaz this summer. I'd be very, very surprised. I'm not going to bet any money on it with you guys, especially not in this first video, but I would be incredibly surprised if they do. As for Marcus Rashford, he's 27, Rafinha's 28. Is that really the long-term Rafinha alternative that they need on that left wing? I don't think so. I think they should target someone else. To my mind, they need to sign someone that can ideally play on both sides, whose presence in terms of a new arrival won't upset the ecosystem in that dressing room, which did, after all, win a domestic treble last year. Phenomenal year for Hansi Flick's side, moments away from a Champions League final, of course, and that's why I think they should target RB Leipzig's Antonee Nusa. Now, Nusa, a Norwegian international, he's played very well in minutes for Norway. They've got a really exciting crop of young talent with Haaland, Sorloth, Odegaard, Nusa himself, Oscar Bob on the other side too. He didn't absolutely light it up at RB Leipzig last season, especially given the promise he's shown at Club Bruges. He only started 16 league games. I think he finished with 6 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. But there's the raw ingredients there to be an exceptional player. In his final year in Belgium, it was clear he'd outgrown the league. His shot creating actions, so the shot or pass that leads to a shot, was up at 7.8 in Norway. That dropped to 2.4 last term, and he went from completing 4 dribbles a game, or more than 4 dribbles, to 2.3. But that's still pretty promising in an RB Leipzig side that struggled for much of the campaign. For a little bit of context, Ugo Ekitike, who does have the disadvantage of playing further forward and therefore more defenders around him, he completed 1.8 dribbles. So Nusa was above that level, and actually Barcelona considered signing him last year as well, and apparently Nusa could be got for around 40 million euros, so considerably less than the fee that Man United are going to ask for Rashford in their situation, and the fee that Liverpool would ask for Luis Diaz, given everything that's gone on there in the last few weeks too. So Nusa, cheap, high potential, the sort of risk that Barcelona have needed to take more of in the last few years, and I think it's a sensible one. Let's move over to their El Clasico rivals, Real Madrid. Now, they've had an incredibly busy summer so far, signing a number of young players, Dean Huijsen and Antonee as well, really exciting young attacking midfielder out of Argentina. They've also brought in Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think their big issue last season was goals and the way that attack gelled, particularly the relationship between Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe. Both clearly played their best football when the other one was injured, when the other one was suspended, whatever it was. And also their possession numbers, 69% for Barcelona, 61% for Real Madrid. Without Toni Kroos's metronomic passing in midfield, they felt a little bit short in that area. Now, if Real Madrid were going to sign anyone, and I don't actually think they will sign another player, especially given Gonzalo Garcia's emergence of the Club World Cup as a nice number 9, a more natural number 9 alternative to Kylian Mbappe. But in an imaginary scenario where one of Kylian Mbappe or Vinicius Jr. left the club, I would sign a more natural number 9, or at least someone that can play in that position, potentially someone that can play on both sides too, if Rodrigo was going to leave, and Marcus Thuram comes to mind. Now, why would Inter Milan sell Marcus Thuram? They wouldn't. They just quite simply wouldn't. The year before last, he was one of their better players. Last year, still very good. Helped them to a Champions League final. He's got a phenomenal relationship with their club captain and best player Lautaro Martinez. Inter Milan just won't do this. But in this hypothetical universe, guys, and we are having a bit of fun here, Marcus Thuram would be brilliant, I think. Playing on both sides, I've already mentioned, he scored at least 13 goals in the last 3 seasons. He can play up front in a 2. He can play wide. He can kind of play off the front man as well as leading the line. I think he's been an amazing addition for Inter Milan since signing from Borussia Mönchengladbach. And for me, Marcus Thuram, one of the best progressive ball carriers in the world, would really work in this Real Madrid system. But unfortunately, guys, I don't think this one's happening. Before I finish up in Spain, we've got to talk about Atletico Madrid. Now, the player I think they should target is Angelo of Stuttgart. Now, for me, guys, this is the most exciting midfielder coming out of German football right now, alongside probably Alexander Pavlovic. But Pavlovic did miss a number of games last season for Bayern Munich with injury. Angelo came through the Bayern Munich academy, but got really his first opportunity at Hoffenheim. But he's been at Stuttgart for the last 2 seasons there. He's been an absolute ever-present. The year before last, he helped them to finish second, of course, ahead of Bayern Munich. Last year, they won the DFB Pokal, and Stiller was absolutely crucial to that run. He got 2 assists in the final against Arminia Bielefeld as well, and I think he is ready for a move. I'm really surprised there hasn't been more interest in him already this summer. Atletico Madrid have some really interesting midfield profiles in their squad. They've got Pablo Barrios, who's turning into a pretty good controller and a bit of a destroyer as well. They've got the energy of Conor Gallagher, very much a bit part player last year, as well as the legs of Marcos Llorente, who shows no sign of slowing down just yet. But they do need to look to the future. Rodrigo de Paul's future of the club, a little bit uncertain. Talk about Inter Miami there. There's also the Koke situation being 33. I think Angelo Stiller is a different profile to what they've already got in terms of progressive passes, so passes that go 10 yards towards the opponent's goal. He ranks 7th in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues last season. He's brilliant on the dead ball, left-footed as well. Nice change from Llorente, nice change from Gallagher going forward as well. Brilliant dead ball specialist, and ended up with 8 league assists last year, more than anyone else in Atletico Madrid's squad. That was the same as Vinicius Jr., it was the same as Cole Palmer, it was the same as Joao Neves at PSG as well. Angelo Stiller, I think, would be a brilliant addition to Atletico Madrid. What would Stuttgart sell him for? I think they'd be looking for 50 million euros plus, potentially even 60 million euros. Could Atletico Madrid do that this summer, having already invested quite heavily in the last 2? I'm not so sure, but I think he'd be a brilliant signing for Atletico Madrid, and has been linked with Real Madrid as well, so it'd be nice to get one over on their near rivals. Let's go back over to Germany now to talk about Borussia Dortmund. Now, Borussia Dortmund had a difficult campaign last year. The year after reaching the Champions League final, they finished 4th, and it does feel like in terms of current standings in German football, they've been superseded by Bayer Leverkusen, at least in the short term. Definitely not in terms of history, but in the short term. And Leverkusen have had a really difficult start to the summer. They've lost Jonathan Tah, they've lost Jeremy Frimpong to Liverpool, and of course, Florian Wirtz, the jewel in their crown, has gone to Liverpool as well. Whereas Borussia Dortmund, pretty promising start to the summer. They've made the moves for Couto and Svensson, who spent last season on loan there, permanent, and they've also signed Jude Bellingham. But I think they should go and weaken Bayer Leverkusen's hand further by signing another of their players. Now, if Karim Adeyemi leaves, and there has been talk about that in the last couple of windows, then I think they'll go sign an attacker, because they've obviously already lost Jamie Gittins as well to Chelsea. The future of Julian Brandt doesn't look quite settled either. But for now, if they don't lose any more players, I think they should target a midfielder and a midfield destroyer, because quite frankly, the midfield, whether it's Gross, Sabitzer, Chan, Felix Metra, etc., it hasn't really worked in the last 18 months. It did slightly improve under Niko Kovac, and I do think Jude Bellingham will make a big impact at that club, maybe more than people are expecting, but I think they should go and sign an out-and-out destroyer who can do a little bit of everything as well. Now, I think the player that they should go and target is Exequiel Palacios from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, the reason you might not have heard him linked with bigger clubs in the last 12 months is he is injury prone. There's no getting away from it. He's missed at least 9 games in every single season for the last 7 years. But given they do have Salih Ozcan, who's never really worked out at Borussia Dortmund, given the fact that Emre Can feels unlikely to leave, there could be a rotation there. And if you get Palacios fit and firing, what a player you have on your hands. The season Leverkusen won the league, so the season before last, this is a player that was averaging 4.3 defensive actions per 90. Anything above 3 for a midfielder is really pretty solid. He completed 89% of his dribbles, the best record in Europe's top 5 leagues. He completed 23 of his 26 dribbles attempted, and he also completed 92% of his passes. He is a triple threat. He can do absolutely everything in midfield, and if it wasn't for that injury record, I think he'd already be at a Champions League contending club. I think Borussia Dortmund should go in for him and weaken Bayer Leverkusen. Now, talking of Bayer Leverkusen, I do actually really like some of the incomings and rumours at that club right now. There is speculation that Johan Bakayoko could leave PSV in a €20 million deal or so. I think that could prove to be one of the bargains of the summer. Jarell Quansah, I think, will be really hungry to succeed after a season kind of wasted on the bench at Liverpool. And then Malik Tillman, I think, is a brilliant addition from PSV as well. But I think they could do with a really elite right back or right wing back to replace Jeremy Frimpong. Now, you're unlikely to get someone as effective as Jeremy Frimpong. He has averaged over 10 league goals and assists in the last 2 seasons. I think he's a big absentee from Bayer Leverkusen going forward. But I think there's a potential bargain to be had in Spain at Rayo Vallecano with Andrei Rațiu. Now, I think I'm pronouncing that right, but any Romanians in the comments, pull me up if I am not. This guy was 9th for dribbles completed in the entirety of Europe, playing for a Rayo Vallecano side that finished 8th. And he was a key reason behind that. He contributed 2 goals and 3 assists. He completed more progressive carries, so carries that carry the ball 10 yards towards the opposition goal, than Palmer, then Gordon, and then Michael Olise too. Rațiu, if you haven't heard of this guy, do not worry. I only discovered him a few months ago when watching some highlights of Rayo Vallecano. But this is a 6-foot, 27-year-old right wing back who can also play further forward. So much energy, tall, rangy runner, and I think he'd be perfect for Bayer Leverkusen. Let's head over to Italy now, guys, and talk about Inter Milan. Now, there is no getting away from it, guys. Inter Milan have an incredibly old squad. Last year, the average age of their formations used was over 29. 5 of their 11 most used players were over the age of 30 in Serie A. And they need to refresh all across that squad, I think, in particular. But let's focus mainly in the most problem area, and I think that's midfield. Now, I think they should go and sign Joao Gomes from Wolves. Now, Wolves have had a really interesting start to the summer. They've had some big outgoings already. Matheus Cunha has left the club. Ryan Aït-Nouri has left the club. Would they want to break up the partnership of Andrei and Joao Gomes, one of the strongest elements of their team? Absolutely not. But it was reported earlier this summer by the Daily Mail, who are normally fairly accurate about their financial reporting. They gave a table out, I'll put it on screen now, a table of amount of leeway with PSR. And at the top, unsurprisingly, after selling their club, a number of their own entities was Chelsea, at the bottom was Burnley, and Wolves only had £56 million to play with. Look, that's obviously been helped by the sales of Cunha and Aït-Nouri, but they might still be willing to sacrifice another midfielder, given the way that they've scouted so effectively in that area in the last 2 years. And Joao Gomes at 3.5 defensive actions per 90, at 19th in Europe's top 5 leagues for defensive actions completed, would add some much needed bite to that midfield that got quite simply overrun and embarrassed by PSG in that Champions League final. 5-0 defeat. The future of Hakan Çalhanoğlu doesn't look particularly certain either. Get Joao Gomes in. Now let's talk about Juventus. Now Juventus have made a number of errors, I would say, in the transfer market in the last 2 years. They've sold so many talented youngsters that I think are now good enough to play for the club, whether it's Huijsen, Ravella, Fagioli, Barrenechea. Moise Kean was obviously exceptional for Fiorentina last year as well. But yet here I am, I'm suggesting another short-term fix. I think they should have a look at Bayern Munich's Joao Palhinha. Now, Joao Palhinha obviously didn't have a great year at Bayern Munich. He was supposed to sign the year before under Thomas Tuchel. There was photos of him in the club's shirt. That deal collapsed, and by the time he'd actually arrived, it was Vincent Kompany in charge. And Vincent Kompany, as a disciple of Pep Guardiola and possession style of play, isn't going to want a pure destroyer in the middle of the park. But he didn't ultimately give him many minutes, I think it's fair to say. I think it was about 670 in the Bundesliga, about 170 in the Champions League. But when he did play, he was largely pretty effective. He won 69% of his challenges, he completed 92% of his passes, so not too bad. And when you look at what he did in his final year at Fulham, he completed 198 defensive actions. That's more than N'Golo Kante completed in his final 6 campaigns at Chelsea in any one of those 6 campaigns. Unfortunately, you don't have data for his first year at Chelsea, having just signed from Leicester. But my point is, Joao Palhinha, incredible defensive output at Fulham. And I think bringing in Joao Palhinha could allow you to play Manuel Locatelli further forward, who can pick those passes, pick those progressive passes, those through passes that are so dangerous. Put Kenan Yildiz in better positions. Get Jonathan David in and around the box in dangerous positions as well. And suddenly Juve's attack, I think, just elevates. So sort out the base of their midfield, free up Locatelli, and hopefully the goals will come. Let's go over to the other side of Milan now and talk about AC Milan. They were lining up, supposedly, Archie Brown, who eventually went to Fenerbahce as Theo Hernandez's natural replacement. Now, Theo Hernandez had a really difficult year last year at AC Milan. He fell out with both managers there. He didn't really seem at his best or anywhere close to his best, but that is still a huge absentee, because when he was at his best a few years ago, he was a top 5 left back in the world. I think they should go and complete a transfer they tried to do way back in January 2020 and sign Fulham's Antonee Robinson. Now, that deal back in January 2020 was when Antonee Robinson was at Wigan, and they found a heart irregularity. Unfortunately, that transfer then collapsed. He went to Fulham, and he's been absolutely brilliant, I think it's fair to say, for Fulham. He's never missed more than 5 games in a season for Fulham in the last 5 years. His attacking output jumped up massively last season. After the year before, his defensive output was absolutely amazing. He'll be 28 next month. He is a win-now signing. I don't think he'll take any time to adapt to Serie A. And if they manage to sign Jashari, Ricci and Antonee Robinson, I think that's a really solid summer of incomings from Milan. And I don't think they'd be done just yet there either. Could they afford Antonee Robinson? Look, I think it's a massive long shot. They'd have to do some clever financial manoeuvring. I think it is a big shot, as I've already said. But let's have it. Let's see it happening. Antonee Robinson, US international, going to play alongside Christian Pulisic in Milan. I like it. I'm not going to actually cover Napoli because, quite frankly, they don't need any help this transfer window. I think they're having a great year. So instead, let's talk about PSG. Now, again, what do you give the club that just won a treble last season? I think you look at their weakest areas of depth. I think their starting 11 is absolutely phenomenal. They've got great depth in the forward areas. They've got great depth in midfield with Zaire Emery or Fabian Ruiz. But potentially the full-back depth. But I think more exciting is potentially to look at centre-back depth. Now, on the left-hand side, they've got Pacho, they've got Beraldo. On the right-hand side, they've got Marquinhos. Lucas Hernandez is still kicking around there too. But I think they could sign a top centre-back to play cover for Marquinhos. And I think they should go for, this is a little bit of a shock, John Stones. Now, John Stones has had a phenomenal time in the Premier League. I think emerging, obviously, when he was at Barnsley, then Everton, then that great move to Man City. I think he made that position his own for a number of years. I think Man City's best performances over the last few seasons have generally come with John Stones at the back. I think he's a phenomenal player. But last year, very much a bit part player. It does seem like a changing of the guard at City. Would John Stones want to go and live in Paris, learn a new language at his age, probably maintain a similar level of pay and play for a club that's so dominant that he's going to get so much time on the ball, that he's going to be able to pick out the passes that he wants to, work with some of the best young players in the world? Potentially. And I think PSG should go for it as well. They've signed so many young, talented players. A player of John Stones' experience who's won everything there is to win at Man City. I think he could be a seriously good addition. So guys, thank you so much for watching the first ever video on this YouTube channel. I couldn't be more grateful for the support. Please subscribe, please like it, please tell your friends, tell your nan, tell your mates, tell anyone. I've started a YouTube channel. I've created a lot of content over the last 8 years nearly for Football Daily first and then Sky, and now I want to make some videos that are my own. And the plan is, I mean, it will be very much when time allows, but I'm planning to do potentially 1 video a week, maybe 2 when the season starts as well, and just have a lot of fun with it. Go from there. I don't have any set plans on what the style of content will be. I think it will mainly have a European football sort of flavour, but I'll probably talk a bit about Sunderland. I'll talk a bit about the Premier League as well. I'm just going to enjoy it as much as possible. So thank you so much for watching this first video, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.